What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, obviously, it's been a little while since I've done a review. I got kind of busy back at the beginning of September, and then I don't know. I felt very tired and exhausted. Didn't really want to do any reviews, so I took a little bit of a break, and I apologize for that. But back, I'm gonna try to get back into doing reviews. Try to get back into the swing of it again. Get the feeling, the energy of let's do this. So, of course, starting off with the Chelsea review, that can be a little hard because there's been a lot that happened that I've not talked about yet. I'll do a separate video discussing my thoughts over kind of the Tuchel sacking and then Potter's hiring and all of that stuff. But just discussing today's game against Palace, Potter's first Premier League game in charge. Kind of quick thoughts about his first game, his actual first game, even though for some reason I guess fans decided that the first two games you can't criticize the manager because it's too early. You can't tell. I mean, I can kind of tell that there's been no change since Tuchel left and Potter came in. It's basically the same issues that I had under Tuchel. You know, a lack of speed and possession, a lack of movement up top, and then we're way too vulnerable on the counterattack. And as far as I can tell from all the reports, it sounds like Potter's not planning on moving Jorginho out of that midfield. Jorginho's his man, just like he was under Sarri, like he was under Lampard for a bit, like he was under Tuchel. And I'm just like, well, we're always going to be vulnerable on the counterattack then. Until we get a manager in that doesn't like Jorginho, we're going to be vulnerable on the counterattack because he's not good on the counterattack. He's slow. He can't defend well. And then in possession, we're going to be slow because he's also slow in possession. So, yeah, I mean, this is it's still early days, so it is a little bit more difficult to really discuss some thoughts about how we're playing because, yeah, there is still a bit of a growing period under a new manager. But I expected to see some improvement. But the issues are still there. The issues are still the exact same that they were under Tuchel, and even the personnel decisions. You know, we're not dealing with the whole, oh, Havertz is being played as a false nine, thankfully, it seems like, under these first two games. But there's still this feeling that, well, we got to deal with Jorginho. Well, we got to deal with, a couple players that maybe shouldn't be seeing the field over other players. You've got Mount, who's not in a good run of form, but Gallagher has been playing okay. Broja, every time he comes off the bench, he looks energetic. He looks like he wants to fight. And then Aubameyang, for the past couple games he's started, hasn't really done much. There are just little decisions like that make me wonder, what's going on? Is there something behind the scenes? Is there a grudge match against the manager and the player? Is there just something about this player that the manager doesn't like, but he's a useful player? It's just the manager for some reason doesn't want to pick. I don't know, but there were a few decisions today. I obviously, as far as the lineup is concerned, I'm still holding out some decisions because I don't really know. There are a couple players that we picked up that we haven't seen yet. We don't really know what to expect. And also, as far as Potter's system, it's hard to tell what each player is going to be doing yet because we're still kind of feeling that out as fans. But as far as his tactics, I can say they feel the exact same. They feel like we want to keep possession, we want to keep the ball moving around the back until we can find that one little pass through. It may take 30 minutes for us to find that pass through, but we'll bide our time because we like possession. And I'm just not a fan of that. I've never been a fan of tiki-taka. That whole idea that we're just going to knock the ball around until we find that one good pass. It's just not fun. It's not entertaining from a fan's point of view. As much as I don't like Liverpool, I'll admit they play entertaining football because they get the ball down the field fast and they look to hit you fast and they pressure you hard. They don't give you time to think. They're constantly boom, boom, boom up and down the field. Watching us is like just watching a nice little what do they call, like the little marble things, like you knock and just back and forth like this. Like that's what it feels like most of the time, and it makes you fall asleep because you're just watching it go back and forth. And so I'm not really feeling it yet. I'm not feeling like there's been much of a change. I'm feeling like Potter's basically the same as Tuchel at the moment. Will that change? Maybe. It is still early days, so there is a possibility that could change. But for me, I'm not really that excited right now, and that's also why I'm trying to get that energy up to do a review because I want to talk about it, but at the same time, I'm also like, but I just know that People are gonna get pissed because you're criticizing too early. It's too early. You can't tell. We're still early on in the season. Well, I mean we are early on in the season, but we're also not doing too great. We're still well behind challenging for the title, and honestly, we're chasing for Champions League too, and that's not a position that I want to be in. So, but talking about players now, actually, I'll discuss the controversy in the game because, of course, the red card possibility for Silva, the handball, denial of a goal scoring opportunity. Who's right? It should have been a red, should have been a yellow. Here's my thing. Is it a denial of a goal scoring possibility? Opportunity? Possibly. there is a chance that, Ayew could have taken a good touch to get inside, and there's a chance that the recovering Chelsea players may not have gotten back in time to stop him from having a one-on-one opportunity with Kepa. It's a little ways out, so it's hard to tell. However, call the foul. But that's part of the problem is Chris Kavanagh today, you don't know what's a foul. Sterling goes in on almost the exact same challenge on Gahey in the back line for Palace. But honestly, Sterling didn't even put in much of a challenge. Gahey just sort of got in front of him and then fell over, and that was a foul. Ayew is actually kind of pulling back on Silva, and Silva goes over, and there's no foul. So I'm looking at that and saying it doesn't matter whether that handball was a denial of a goal-scoring opportunity or not. Kavanagh needs to call it consistently. If you're going to call that weak stuff on us, then you're going to have to call that weak stuff on them too. But he didn't. And that's where all this talk of controversy should have been sent off, should have not. It shouldn't even be happening because you call the foul. You call the foul on Ayew and none of this happens. But instead now it's going to be the focal point. Oh, Silva should have been sent off. He assisted the first goal. Oh, Palace got robbed. All of this talk because the referee is inconsistent in his calls. So, and I've never really liked Chris Kavanagh. Obviously, he's not the worst ref in the league because there are others, one of which ruined a really entertaining North London derby this morning, which he who shall not be named has ruined games for us before. But yeah, I mean, it was just, in my opinion, doesn't matter if he denied a goal-scoring opportunity or not because that was a foul on him. And that's why he's grabbing at the ball. It wasn't to stop stop Ayew from getting in. It's what most players do. When they feel the contact from behind, they go down, they grab the ball because they're like, hey, that's a foul. And the referee, for some reason, was like, no, he's allowed to touch you on your back, but I'm not going to let you guys touch Palace players on their back because that's not okay. But going into individuals, Kepa in goal again because Mendy's still out, and he showed again why he's not the first choice. Even though Mendy's not in great form right now, there's just nothing from him. There's always this worry of, is he going to get across? Is he going to move his feet? He was motionless again on the goal, so I'm not saying he necessarily could have made a save, but if he's not standing back on his line, there's a chance that he maybe comes out and collects it before Edouard can get to it. Or he puts Edouard off enough to where he can't get a touch on it and poke it in. But he's standing there and he's waiting for the game to come to him. And he's just 3 or 4 years now that he's been at the club, is it? I don't remember exactly how long, but it's been the exact same problem for him. He doesn't move his feet. And he's still not moving his feet. So I don't want to go to a keeper that can't improve the one thing that he's been needing to improve since he came to the club. So it's not like he was awful throughout the entire game. He did make a couple of decent saves, and he did have one moment where he did well to rise above the challenge and punch it out. But for the most part, I'm never confident when he's in goal. I'm always feeling like if they get a shot off from outside the 18, there's a chance it could be going in. Very high chance of it going in. I would say probably 60-40 that it goes in, and that's not good odds for a keeper as far as outside the 18 shots go. Going into the back line, though, Reece James was okay. Another one of the games that I've seen from him where he did some good stuff. He had some good moments on the ball. Creatively, in the final third, he looks pretty good. Defensively, he looks strong. He looks solid. But there are just some moments where I feel like he's kind of waiting for the game to come to him. And he's creative and he's quick enough to where he can look sort of like he's standing still, he's not really moving, and then goes suddenly. But the problem is when he doesn't have the ball, that style doesn't really help us because you've got a player that's looking to play him in behind or looking to play him into space, but he's standing waiting for it to come to his feet. And there is a little bit of a disconnect, the player playing to him needs to recognize, hey, I want it to my feet, but also be on your toes so you can be ready for that ball that does get played in behind and be ready to go to it. But there are just some times where I watch him and he looks a little bit lazy. He looks like he's just waiting for the game, waiting for, hey, come to my side, instead of trying to be proactive or at least being on his toes and being ready for something crazy to happen, or maybe the ball slips through and he can slip in behind because he was ready for it. He doesn't seem to be that type of player, and I prefer him to be, because he's very clearly he's a great player. But I worry that that's going to hinder his game a bit going forward, because he's not always ready. He's not always turned on. Whenever the game's away from him, he's just sort of there. He's just sort of hanging out, waiting for them to come back to his side. On the left side, Chilwell, not really great. He's okay. He had a couple moments here and there, but for the most part, he was just sort of. It felt like he was a little behind the pace of the game. And obviously, Palace have a lot of pacey players, so it's expected that any players that are not as quick, they're going to struggle. But it just felt like he wasn't really reading the game that quickly either. Like, there are too many moments where he wasn't just losing out in the pace battle, he was also losing out in the thinking speed battle. He was not reading the game and getting there quick enough when he should have been. He should have been stepping. He should have already been on his toes and ready to go win the ball first. And instead, he's just like, oh, they're playing the ball to that guy. I need to go step. And now he's stepping up there as the player's poking it past him and going. So just he's shown his quality in the past. He's shown that he can be a really good player. I feel like ever since the injury, he's not been near that standard. So I don't know if the injury's holding him back still. I don't know if he's just not really pushing himself because he's worried about it. So it could be a physical thing. It could be a mental thing. Whatever the case, he's not the same level that he's been for us in the past, and that it really hurt us at times today. In the middle, Silva looked solid again, looked strong, read the game well. It's incredible that he's 38 years old and still able to just play the game so easily, it seems like. And a lot of it, again, it's all up here. He knows where to be. He knows where to position himself. He reads crosses. He reads passes. He's a very smart player. And, the handball incident, it's a situation where he lets the contact come in on him and he goes over. And if the referee is calling it like he should be, that should be a foul. So I don't blame that situation on him. And for the most part, he was just strong throughout the match. Especially because they have so many strong, pacey players up there. You would expect the fact that physically he's not at the same level as those players. You'd expect him to maybe have a few chances, but he does well enough and he positions himself well enough, even in a back two, which I think he's not as good in a back two because he can't sit deeper and read the game. But he still did well enough and he still positioned himself well enough to really keep a lot of their attack at bay. Fofana, it's been kind of a rough start for him, and especially considering the price tag, he shouldn't be having this rough of a start. But that first goal is all him. The pass is his bad pass to Jorginho, gives it away, and then he doesn't track the runner. The runner comes in from behind him. He should be reading that. He should be clearing it. He should be beating the runner to it. He didn't do any of it. He just gave it away, jogged back, watched as the player snuck in behind him and scored. And that's not good enough. There's no reason for that. Especially when you got players like Chalobah, like Koulibaly on the bench, who I guarantee Koulibaly wouldn't be letting the guy run in behind him, but Chalobah, for the most part, doesn't let players just go. He doesn't let that happen. Now, giving the ball away, that's something he might do because he's not the best at that. But as far as I can tell, Chalobah's shown he reads the game pretty well, and he's strong enough and fast enough to where he's going to work. He's going to push himself, so that way that ball in behind, that's not going to happen. He's going to try to put the striker off in some way, or he's going to try to get something on the ball and try to poke it away. So yeah, I worry because Fofana, at least early on, he's looking like another Kepa, another Torres, another Morata. We splashed all this money because, this is a player that we needed, and then we bring him in and they're just nowhere near what we were expecting to get based on the price tag, at least. So hopefully he gets better. Hopefully he improves. Obviously he's still young, so he's got plenty of time and room to improve. But especially because he's been playing at the Premier League level, you should not be giving up that easy of a chance. That's just laziness. That's you not wanting to push yourself to block that cross or put the striker off in some way. Into the midfield, Kovacic and Jorginho were sitting a bit deeper than I think. It was kind of a weird system. Like sometimes it was Mount and Kovacic going with Jorginho sitting deep. Sometimes it was Kovacic and Jorginho sitting deep with Mount and Havertz kind of in behind Sterling and Aubameyang. Sometimes it was weird. It was a weird system. I don't really know exactly what was happening at times, and it definitely felt that way whenever we had possession. It felt very disjointed. It felt like the players didn't know where they were supposed to be. So I'll grant them a bit of leeway because of that. But Jorginho, like I said, he just leaves us very vulnerable to the counterattack. He's slow. He's not very good at reading the play. Honestly, something that I just read recently, an article talking about how when Fabregas was at Chelsea, he actually beat Willian and Pedro in a speeds test race because he was intelligent. He knew they had to go collect cones and bring them back to the center. He took the shortest route because he was smart like that. He knew how to read the game. He knew how to read situations, and he could beat players that were faster than him because of that. Ball's coming in. He already knows what's going on around him, and he's ready to play the ball first time if pressure's coming quickly. With Jorginho, most of the time, he takes the first touch and then he gets his head up to see what's around him. And most teams know that. Most teams know, hey, as soon as he gets that first touch, get in on him. And most of the time, he ends up giving it away because of that. And he's still not learned how to keep his head on a swivel, how to keep looking, what's behind me, where am I going? He doesn't have that figured out, and if he's not figured it out after all this time, maybe he's not going to ever figure it out, so maybe he's not good enough to play in the Premier League. But Potter apparently loves him. Don't know why. I swear, it's either he's just an ass kisser, and he loves to get in and be like, hey coach, I'm excited to be here. He's always going around collecting cones, he's doing all this extra stuff, and so the manager's like, hey, I appreciate everything you're doing off the pitch, I'm going to let you start. If that's the case, then, that's just favoritism, basically. And you shouldn't do that. It should be, who are your best players? Who are the players that are going to give you what you need? And Jorginho's never been that player, in my opinion. For any manager that's come in since Sarri brought him in, he's never been the player that I'm thinking, this is exactly what the manager needs in there. Even Sarri ball, because Sarri ball wasn't fit for the Premier League anyway. But because of that, Jorginho was not fit for the Premier League because he was supposed to be the focal point of Sarri ball. Yeah, I've never understood. The managers always seem to love to praise him. Obviously, he was third in Ballon d'Or for whatever reason. I've never seen it, and yeah, I think a lot of that is down to he's just not physically capable of being in the Premier League. And it showed again today. He really, not that he was the worst player on the pitch, but he definitely, there were times that he was caught out. There were times that he, should have been a simple pass. He did have one really good pass that Aubameyang didn't get on the end of in the first half, but there's nothing really outside of that I can think of that made me think, yes, this is why Jorginho's playing. But there were a few reasons I'm looking at and thinking, that's why he shouldn't be playing. Kovacic looked a little off today. He was nearly the worst player on the pitch, but there was one slightly worse than him. But yeah, I don't know, his touch was a little off. He didn't look as quick today. He didn't look as ready to play, with pressure coming. Most of the time he turns out of it real quick and he's ready to go. Today it seemed like he wasn't quite getting out of those situations as well as he normally does. So I don't know if this is just like a jet lag, traveling with the international team, coming back, and you're still recovering from that. I don't know if that's what was going on, but he was not at his standard of quality today. And it definitely felt that way. A lot of our midfield, I think most of the time when Conte's not playing, it comes from Kovacic's ability to wriggle out of that high press and get us down the field. And there were some moments where it felt like we weren't able to do that. We weren't able to break that first line of press because Kovacic wasn't at his best today. It wasn't really until Loftus-Cheek came on that I felt like we were actually able to get past that first line of press and make some better, I guess, routes, maybe, into the, I don't really know the word I'm looking for there, but just basically getting into the attacking third with some quickness, not just knocking it around the back and then slowly building into the final third as they're all clumped into the box, which is what happened for most of the game. And then the other midfielder, Mount, not not awful. Like, there's still definitely a lack of finishing from him that needs to improve. But today he looked a little bit more like himself. Like, he was a little bit more energetic. He was a little bit better on the ball, trying to find passes, trying to move the ball quickly. But there is still that lack of quality up top that he hasn't found this season, and it's been hurting us. We've been relying a lot on our back line to get things done because we don't have the quality in the final third from any of our attacking players, and Mount has been one of the guilty party in that. So, yeah, better from him today, but still not quite what I expect to see from Mount. And then Havertz, I guess, is kind of the other midfielder. He was our worst player today. Just nothing really from him. There were several moments when it felt like he should be giving us something. He should be getting a good chance. The one chance that he had, driving across the top of the box, it's on his left foot. He puts it like 6-7 feet wide of the goal, or honestly, probably not even that close. It was more like 5 yards, honestly. But I don't know. Nothing from him. I can't think of anything today that made me think this is what we needed to keep over Werner. When I watch Havertz play, I expect to see a player that's going to be difficult to contain for the back line. A player that's wriggling out of tight challenges, tight areas, finding good passes. I didn't see any of that today. There are too many times where it was a bad touch, or he dribbles himself into pressure, or he should be releasing the ball, but he takes that extra touch and now he's lost it. Way too many moments of that. He was involved, but he wasn't involved in a good way. Pretty much most of his involvement was giving the ball away, or a couple bad shots that one comes after a bad touch and then it's blocked easily because his touch was too long, and then, like I said, the other one driving across the top of the box, he should be curling it, at least getting it toward that back post, but it's well wide. It's not good enough, especially for a player of his quality. It should be better. It should be more effective. It should be troubling the back line more, and he didn't. So I know it's a little harsh because, again, he was at least getting on the ball and he was trying to make things happen, but it's still just, it wasn't nearly good enough for what he can do, for what we expect from him. Wasn't good enough. Sterling was also not up to his standard either, but he did have a few moments where he managed to cause some trouble for the back line. He managed to break through occasionally. So he was slightly dangerous today, which is why I don't put him as low as Havertz, but he still wasn't what we need out of him. And some of that is down to, with this formation that we're playing, I don't really know what he's supposed to be playing. I don't know if he's supposed to be more out wide or if he's supposed to be... He was in the middle a lot today. And he's better when he's coming in from the wing and driving down the line at players. So I do feel like some of his performance today was hindered by the fact that he wasn't being played where he should be. But I don't know how much of that is him coming out of position or how much of that is Potter telling him, hey, we want you more central. And if it's Potter telling him we want you more central, then that's his fault. But and then Aubameyang obviously got himself the goal, which was nice. But it was okay. He wasn't awful, but he wasn't really getting himself that involved. He didn't give himself the chance to be good or bad. He was just sort of there waiting sometimes for the game to get up to him. A couple times he did drop deeper, but not enough for me to really think he's trying to get himself in. He's trying to force his way into the game. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully he can grow into it again, or hopefully Broja can step in and take that position from him, but we need a striker desperately. That's where a lot of our problems come from, because we don't really have somebody in there that's constantly just pushing the back line, making runs, moving in and out, causing trouble for the defenders. We don't have that anymore, from what I've seen. Broja, maybe there's a chance, but for whatever reason, I guess he's not showing Potter enough to start him. But I'd like to see him start. I'd like to see what he can do from the beginning and see, can he cause enough trouble for the back line that it'll create chances for himself or for other players around him, because that's what Werner did most of the time. But that's as far as the starting lineup goes. Subs that came on, Loftus-Cheek came on for Jorginho because Jorginho was hurt, I think. I don't know how bad it was. He was just sort of clutching like his side. But yeah, I thought Loftus-Cheek, that's when the game started to play a bit more in our favor in the second half. Eventually, Palace rode that early pressure when he came on and then started to get a little bit more going down our side of the field. But when he came on, there definitely felt like there was a bit more energy in the midfield. And a lot more of Palace's chances came down the wings at that point because it was a good decision from Vieira to move Zaha to Chilwell's side, because that's honestly where they started to take control of the game in the 65 to 70th minute mark. They started to push a little bit more possession. But Loftus-Cheek, as far as he was concerned, I thought he looked pretty good. I expect to see him starting more this season just because he looks like he's starting to grow into that midfield role a lot better. He's doing the defensive work pretty well. On the attack, he's driving, he's taking players on, and he's big and strong too, which is nice. So yeah, I hope to see more of him as the season goes on because I like what I've seen from him so far. Who are the next two subs? I think it was it Gallagher and Broja? I think those were the next two. I think Pulisic was the last sub, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of those things where I'm trying to think of, this game just happened and my brain's already lost most of the information. But yeah, I know Broja and Gallagher came on at the same time. Gallagher, obviously, with the winning goal, was really well taken. Good first touch to get it out of his feet, get away from the pressure, and then well hit. Gaita maybe could have done a bit better on it, but it was still a nice shot. And honestly, Gallagher's energy is it's so infectious. You watch him play and you feel like the energy of the team sort of picks up whenever he's around because he's constantly putting pressure and it builds the momentum for us. So I'd like to see him playing more. And Broja, like I said, he comes on, he puts a bit of pressure on the defense. He looks to be mobile. He moves all around. I would like to see more of him as well. I'd like to see what he can do, see if he can put enough pressure on the back line to cause problems for them. Because right now, I don't think Aubameyang or Havertz or Sterling, I don't think they're doing enough for us, movement-wise. And Broja, I think, could provide that for us, but we still haven't seen anything from him because he's not really been playing much. And then I think Pulisic was the final sub, and he is the one that got the assist. Nice little driving run. It's what he tends to do well. You get him the ball out wide and you let him drive. Kind of what Sterling does too. So I would like to see that possibility. You've got your wings now. He seems to want to play with the back four. Why not give that a go? Why not let your wings like Sterling, like Pulisic, like Ziyech? You've got good solid wings. Why not let them play? Why not give them a chance to get the ball out wide and then drive? Or with Ziyech, he typically will cut inside and put in a dangerous cross. Why not give that a shot? And that's where I feel like Tuchel failed for me. It didn't feel like things were changing. It didn't feel like he was trying to adapt. It didn't feel like he was trying something new. It was always the same. The wings were never a thing. The wings were not ever really utilized correctly. They were always... They're inside. They're not providing width. They're inside. And it was always a problem. And I feel like with Potter, so far, we've seen a couple instances where we did get the ball out wide and we let the wings do their thing, but it's not happening enough for me to really think that that's something he wants. It feels more like a late game switch to be like, maybe if we try this, we can get a goal, and then it does happen and it works. But that's too little too late. You shouldn't constantly be in a situation where we have to rely on a late game switch to try the wings out to maybe get us a late goal that will either equalize or win us the game. We should be doing it throughout the game. We should be giving the wings those options because Pulisic, he looked pretty good when he was driving in from the side. He looked pretty good when he was out there making things happen in space. It's whenever you're playing more narrow that I feel like, which was most of the game, honestly, that I feel like we're not as effective. We're not looking as dangerous. All the possession is basically just back and forth across our back line. So I don't know. Well, like I said, it's still early days, so maybe Potter will see that that's a better option and he'll decide to go with that in the next game. Maybe he'll decide to make that switch permanent. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. Like it's based on the first couple of games, it doesn't give me too much hope. It doesn't feel like Potter's making drastic changes or anything, which I personally feel like should have been warranted. But maybe he is sort of feeling out where everything is right now. He's just sort of keeping things similar in the way that they're playing to see, all right, so here's where we need to make changes. Whatever the case, fingers crossed that things do get better. Because, I mean, Champions League wise, we're in a tough spot. We've got AC Milan now for the next 2 games, which is difficult. And then in the league, it's okay. You know, we're doing fine. We're in a position where things are we're still in the Champions League race, but it already does feel like we're sort of out of the title race. You know, Arsenal and Man City look like they're going to be pulling ahead. Arsenal probably will drop off at some point because they're Arsenal, but it feels like for us, you know, we've already dropped so far behind City, and City typically don't drop that many points. Not really much of a chance that we're going to be challenging them this season, but we should at least be leading the race for the Champions League, and that's something that I hope we start to do. I hope we start to pull ahead of the teams that are just ahead of us and say, no, we are in the Champions League. And if City do slip up, we're here to put a little bit of pressure on them. That's where we should be with all the talent and especially all the money we spent this summer. We should be in that kind of position. So hopefully we can get there. If not, you know, it'll be another, because I had similar feelings about Tuchel early on. I had a feeling that we weren't really going to see many heights with him, and of course the Champions League was kind of a shock. But from there on, it just, you could see the trend, you could see where things were going. And with Potter early on, I'm having a similar feeling that I did whenever Tuchel came in. I hope that's just my gut, and I hope it, you know, my gut is wrong in this case, but my gut is right at least, I would say, 50% of the time. Like that's, I've been right. I've been right about Sarri. Early on, Lampard, I couldn't tell, but I was worried, and I ended up being right about that. And then Tuchel, I was worried, and then I was like, yeah, you know what, I was wrong, and then I was proven right. So with Potter, early signs for me are not looking good, but maybe he'll be the one to prove me wrong. Fingers crossed. But with all that being said, that's it for me. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the game? And, you know, like I said, I will release a video hopefully soon talking about some of the stuff that happened whenever I was taking my break. But yeah, we'll have a discussion on all that. But leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.